As Nigeria continued to grapple with huge electricity supply deficits with negative impact on livelihoods and businesses, one thing that is becoming a new normal is the rate at which the national grid collapses. Within this year alone, the country has recorded 11 grid collapses, with 2 incidences happening in less than 72 hours. Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight on Daily Politics, your destination for everything politics, policy and governance. I am Shafi'u Suleiman. Now let's begin with a related development in the polity. The Minister of Power, Chief Adibayo Adelabu, has ordered the Transition Company of Nigeria, TCN, and all other relevant agencies of the ministry to begin the immediate implementation of the recommendations of the interagency committee set up to address the incessant grid collapses in the power sector. This is as the TCN appeal for understanding among Nigerians on the possibilities of intermittent disruptions as repair work begins on the grid. Now, the minister's marching order came as the national grid experienced 2 collapses in the last 2 days. Now, let's unpack the talking point on daily politics tonight. Now, despite the huge investment in the power sector, Nigeria's national power grid collapsed more than 100 times in the last 10 years. A recent media report showed that Nigeria secured about 10 loans worth $4.36 billion from the World Bank over the past decade to address key challenges in its power sector without commensurate result. Successive administrations in Nigeria have also expended billions of naira to fix the nagging power problem, yet the sector still struggles. Witnessing incessant grid collapses, which has repeatedly plunged the country into darkness, with the recent leaving almost the entire northern part of the country without electricity for nearly 2 weeks. Now, the House of Representatives Committee on Renewable Energy is also probing the incessant collapse of the national grid. Take a look.
Is there a safety component? Is there a standardization in terms of the safety, the renewable energy products that come in here? For instance, there was a time members of the House of Reps used to make street lights, solar street light, part of constituency project. How many of them are working today? I will request that this committee carry out audits of functionality of the solar street lights that have been installed in Nigeria within the context of promoting renewable energy.
Everything that we do as a people, as a country, as humans revolve around the whole issue of power. Only yesterday we suffered another grid collapse. And I am sure that the ordinary man, the ordinary woman on the streets will be wondering, how come we are having this frequent grid collapse? We seated in this hall might be aware of the technical issues involved, but the world too will be wondering, what are we doing with our renewable energy sources that would have to be dealing with issues of grid collapse? If we had built this sector from when emphasis began, I'm not sure that at this time grid collapse would be something newsworthy.
On Daily Politics tonight, we ask, why is the persistent national grid collapse, and what should be done to address the challenge? We have in the studio to help us navigate through the issues a former general manager of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Engineer Idiris Lawal Alim. It's good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's just go straight into the conversation. You listened to the concerns raised by the House of Reps Committee on Renewable Energy. They are concerned as Nigerians. The rate at which the grid is collapsing today in Nigeria has made Nigerians to begin to say, they hoped, for instance, that it were the other grid that is collapsing and not this grid. I don't know. What's your take? Why is this happening?
Thank you very much for that question. In fact, in the past, when a grid collapsed in a year once, the whole, in fact, at that time we were in headquarters, Marina, Lagos. Everybody is shaking.
Yeah.
More especially the MD, the executive directors. Everybody is shaking because we are not used to it. Once system collapses occur, nobody will have rest of mind. But now we have deviated from our main activities, and we allow faults to be coming unnecessarily and causing system collapse. Before, we have 4 helicopters. Those helicopters, we use them for lines patrol.
Surveillance, yeah.
Surveillance. Then we have 4 helicopter pilots. I don't know what they are doing now, up to now, whether they are still active or not. What happens to the helicopters, we don't know. That is first point. The second point is the management of TCN have neglected, have abandoned the job. Because all the right-of-ways have been taken over by the farmers. How can you access your line when you don't have access? But before, the lines are accessibility. If we see any farmer encroaching on our right-of-way, in fact, no matter how we plant them, we clear them.
Okay.
And we have that opportunity to clear them so that you can be able to access your line very easy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you raised a number of issues. Let's take them one after the other.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing, the concern you raise is actually the concerns of many Nigerians. Before now, even Nigerians will tell you that the issue of grid collapse is occasionally heard.
Exactly.
Before you hear something like grid collapse, maybe in a year, once or twice.
Exactly.
But today it has become a new normal, just like I said.
Yes.
Within just 10 days, I mean, we're recording 11 collapses. One even happened twice within 72 hours.
Yes.
Now, you talked about some sort of neglect on the part of the authorities concerned.
Yes.
But beyond neglect, others also look at, others look at the fact that Nigeria is growing in terms of population. And some of those investments, or rather some of those equipments in the power sector are aging. And not just aging, grossly inadequate. How does this affect, or how does this connect with the current challenge we are facing?
Yes, it has influence because if you want to evacuate power, what we've been hearing now in TCN, we bought transformers. Transformer doesn't work alone. How can you evacuate the power from that transformer to the next destination when you don't have lines? The lines too has overstretched. Some are aged. If you just transmit some of the bulk, in fact, the line will just snap. They cannot carry because the conductors has aged, and some, because of the capacity of transformer you have, they cannot be able to evacuate that power on that line. So buying many transformers will not help unless you build another lines that can. If you are buying transformers, get ready to build another line so that you can be able to evacuate the power from that transmission line to the next destination.
Yeah, I think it's also part of the overall national power master plan now, which was said to have been abandoned. The implementation has not been effective, or has not even taken place. So many experts in the industry believe that, the best way to address this problem is to go back to that, national power master plan. I don't know how much you are in tune with that master plan, or what does it suggest in terms of expanding the infrastructure?
We're supposed to follow them gradually. But what happens now, maybe because of political problem, when you have started constructing a line, you will not complete that line. You abandon it. Maybe Another politician will say, okay, we need 330 kV line to our village again. So what is affecting
political influence and inconsistency in policy implementation?
Exactly, because you cannot afford to have many projects and you cannot complete. It's easier for you to have 3 projects and complete the 3, then you start another one. What is happening in TCN now? They have many projects and that have been abandoned. So there's no point starting it if you cannot complete it. Like, especially like Kaduna, Kano. We're supposed to have court line. For how many years we have been hearing about that court line? Up to now, they are still on that existing line.
Yeah, relying on this Shiroro, Mando,
that line. So we cannot.
And we saw the impact recently when it got disrupted.
Exactly.
The entire north was put into darkness.
Exactly. Apart from only burning Kebi, because they are not on that side. But the whole northeast too, because we have problem with our Ogwaji. So there is no supply to Jos, for Jos not to evacuate power to the northeast. So the whole north have been put into mess. There is no power supply.
Many have been talking about the need for a separate line, a new line that will evacuate power from the Shiroro to Mando and then across the northern states. And that hasn't been prioritized.
That is the problem what I'm talking about. If you start a project, you cannot complete it, you abandon, then you start another project. So at the end, you have no project completed. And you wasted a lot of money.
Right. Okay, we'll look at this, very many initiatives that have taken place. But you said something earlier, which I think need to be emphasized. Beyond the aged, infrastructure, equipment rather, and that's infrastructure we're talking about. There is also this concern around the gap in terms of between equipment for generation and equipment for distribution. Many believe that to some extent this is also playing out, just like you mentioned. You have high voltage, there cannot be, the distribution lines cannot be able to accommodate or cannot be able to handle. So in this case, the point around our inability to supply what we are generating as a country must have become glaring here.
Yes. Before, our major challenge is distribution. When I was in the system, generation, they have their problem, but it's not much. Transmission, they have, but it's not much. Because when I was in the system, I was in charge of maintenance. I have all the data of all the equipment in the system. Circuit breaker, transformers, isolators. So when they are due for rehabilitation, we award it on contract. Some, we purchase the spare parts and keep it in our store in case if there is any need. So more especially like some of the heavy equipment like 330 kV circuit breaker, you don't just operate it anyhow. We always pray we don't want to experience fault on that line because it's just waiting. They are aged, they were waiting to trip. And once they trip, you hardly bring them back to service. That's why when we have system collapse, it takes them time to restore because 330, once 330 kV breaker trips, and most especially the aged type, they are just waiting for that opportunity to come. Once they come, they hardly go back. Before they come back into system, you suffer. At time on the process, even when you close it, the breaker will explode. Because the contact, they used to carbonize because of frequent in and out. So if you cannot be able to clean them, replace them with brand new one. Because there is a risk for the operator even operating. Thank God we operate this 330 kV breaker, 132 breakers, we operate them in the control room. But if mistakenly you are operating in the switch yard and you operate and the thing exploded, your chances of survival is very, very minimal.
Okay. Yes, that's talking about, again, this issue you raised featured, prominently in the report submitted recently by the Interagency Committee, talking about lack of maintenance culture, very poor maintenance culture. They talked about uncoordinated maintenance regime, so to speak, over time.
Exactly.
And that has, to a very large extent, affected the performance of some of this equipment you're talking about.
Exactly.
But what happened, or rather, what is happening? Nigerians will find it difficult to understand.
Yeah.
We have the staff, at the TCN.
Yes.
We have also, that is, we're talking about the manpower.
Yes.
We have the logistics.
Yes.
I want to believe that.
Yeah.
And then you even talk about superior logistics, talking about aircrafts for line surveillance and all of that.
Yes.
Even though we haven't heard much about them. The concern around the recent collapse was that there was vandalization
Yes.
of the power lines along that axis.
Yes.
So perhaps what does this say about the surveillance, and how do you address this issue around poor maintenance culture? Why is it happening?
Okay. First of all, there is no motivation to the staff. Like maintenance. When I was the AGM Kano, I personally followed the linesmen for lines patrol. I sleep in primary school, I sleep in health centers because I go with them.
Leading from the front.
Leading, so that you see, because they cannot just go and tell you lie. Then you are in the office, they will tell you, we have patrolled the line, whereas they have not. They have not. But if you go with them, you can be able to see it yourself. Next time, even if you don't go, if you want them to go, they will go, because they will say, maybe Oga will follow us, so they must go. The same thing in Port Harcourt. In Port Harcourt, there was a time I followed them. I said, okay, let's go on the line. We have ordered the line for line trace, the contractors. 2 contractors were able to execute their own. The third contractor did not even come to site. So I asked them, have they completed the line? Because why this tripping from Aba Imo or Aba Owerri keep on tripping? Why? Is something happening in that line? So I say, okay, I must go on that line. When we went, we found out that particular portion that was given to another contractor, he has not even attempted to even clear them. So I now told my second in command, you see what I'm saying? And you say they have. Now they will bring the invoice now for me to countersign that, thinking that they have completed, they have not. So I now threatened the contractor. I said, look, I'm going to blacklist you among the contractors that TCN will give them job if you don't go and complete your job. That is what
diligent prosecution.
That is it.
Assignment.
So some of the staff, they say they will go on maintenance, like more especially that Port Harcourt side. They will just go in a bush, relax, get palmy, we taking it, thinking
enjoy
that
themselves
they
and come back.
They come back, they will tell you they have patrolled it. But every now and then you keep on having trip on that line. So, but if you don't go yourself, there is no way you can achieve maximum on that line.
Right. Okay. Yes. Talking about inconsistency in policy implementation, and also the gap or the disparity between expenditure and outcome, that is the result.
Yes.
First, let's talk about the measures. Previous administrations have been talking about, have been investing, and at the same time coming up with policies that would sustain or rather address the challenges in the power sector. The previous administration, under the ministry under Fashola, came up with what they call incremental power. And Nigerians saw the rise in terms of generation. I think at some point got to 6,000 or so, thereabout. Only the distribution was around 4,000, 4,500. I can't remember precisely. There was improvement in the power generation and distribution at that point in time. And even the frequency of the collapse, was not there. What happened between that time and now that in spite of the investments, or rather in spite of government removal of tax, subsidy on power, which led to increase in tariff and all of that, yet we're having a reverse in terms of the achievements?
Yes. The reason is very, very simple. Fashola is somebody who doesn't play with his job. If you are under him, if you don't perform, you know that Fashola will not be happy with you. During Fashola, Usman Gur Mohammed was under him. Usman Mohammed, in fact, he has emptied the whole headquarters. He leave only few. What are staff doing in the corporate headquarters? When they're supposed to be in the field, where the major job is there. So When Fashola left, when UG left, if you go to corporate headquarters now, it's filled up with staff. Instead of them to be in the field assisting at least maintenance people, in fact, participate in the maintenance activities to reduce tripping of the equipment. But all of them have converged and stay in headquarters. What are they doing? So these are the policies that hinders all these problems we are facing, because that seriousness is not there. Because if you send your staff where it's needed, not the why. What are you doing in corporate headquarters? That is why during UG and Fashola, things are improving. You don't just play anyhow. He sent them all to field. This is why you're supposed to. Even the linesmen, they said, look, Bush is your office. When you come to write your reports, you come to corporate headquarters, come to your office, write your report and submit. Then you go back to her.
But your area of responsibility is the forest, where these lines are.
That is it. Because why are you keeping staff in headquarters? Why the equipment that require the personnel? You recruit them and you recruit staff. Instead of you to use them, you came and dump them in corporate headquarters. And if you ask them, are you an engineer? He say, an engineer. Engineer that cannot do anything. You cannot.
Maybe a corporate engineer.
That is, if you want to come to corporate headquarters, that is, you are about to retire. You have that knowledge. Then come to headquarters, give them advice. Because you have that knowledge. Then allow the young one that graduated from university, let them go to the field and acquire the knowledge.
Yeah, but there's this concern around insecurity. It has featured prominently. Some of the leaders, if you like, some of the officers in the TCN talked about how their staff are exposed to danger as a result of this insecurity, especially the banditry and so on, especially along that axis. Again, the Office of the National Security Advisor too has re-echoed that, saying that fixing these lines require, reinforcement in terms of security and so on. To what extent does that, hinder the operatives from getting the result?
All I don't believe in that. I believe in determination. When I was a GM Kaduna, a GM Bauchi, the whole Northeast don't have power supply. The military were,
of the insurgents.
Yes, the military were engaged to go and fight the insurgents. So what I did, they transferred me from Kano to Bauchi to make sure I restore Maiduguri with power supply. But because 2 GM have retired, they were not be able to restore power supply to Maiduguri until when I went there. Well, when I went, I now requested to have meeting with Kashi Shetima. Then he was the governor of Borno State. Then with the military. When they give me go ahead, they give me support. What I did, they are not meant there to help TCN. They are there to fight Boko Haram, but you must find your way to go and beg them. Maybe some of their staff, they can be able to co-op them and again give TCN to assist them to go and assist in restoring the power supply.
In other words, you have to go all out and get the necessary support for your staff to be able to function.
You must go, and for you to convince the staff, personally, me, I go with them. Up to the extent that the military is saying that let me enter the MRAP. I said, no, I will not enter the MRAP. Let the junior one enter MRAP. Me and my senior staff will be in the hillocks. If I have the video, I could have played the video when we are patrolling the line. So they say,
it's
why?
About determination.
Yes, we must determine. So when we went with the civilian JTF, all of them will have to give them some token change to accommodate at least maybe their feeding and all these things, because they are not meant there for us. They are meant there for Boko Haram. Right. We beg them and they assist us. Within 3 days, when I discussed with Kashi Shetima, I was able to restore power supply to Maiduguri. And anytime Boko Haram strike, I would ask for military, we go back. I say I will never stop. I spent 3.5 years in Bauchi. That time, Maiduguri has 2 power sources. They can get power supply from Damboa and they can get power supply from Damaturu. When I left, I told them, don't ever allow Damaturu, Damboa and Maiduguri to be off.
At the same time.
Because if it's off, when you have problem with Damaturu, the whole Maiduguri will be out.
Yeah. Just like what happened here.
Exactly.
If there were alternative lines, perhaps they would have switched. To evacuate the power instead of remaining in darkness for almost 14 days.
So when they transfer me back to corporate headquarters, exactly what has happened. I now told them, didn't I told you? Why can't you go back then and restore it?
Yeah.
They say, no, it's an insurgent. I say, is it not the same insurgent during my time? We go, we apply for military assistance, we go and they assist us. That's why during my time, we have, in fact, even the citizens of Borno, they are even saying the light is too much because the meter keep on reading. There's no failure in power supply. Yes. Yeah. But now, when I left, immediately when I left, the power, they have vandalized the tower. The 132 kV I spent at Wajerko, I spent 11 days restoring the line that Boko Haram has blown.
Talking about,
we need determination.
Yeah, talking about leadership, it appears the authorities in the power sector, especially the minister, even though it seems to be up and doing in terms of moving from one end to the other, but it appears they have settled for this continuous grid collapse. In fact, they are saying that they are appealing to Nigerians to brace up, for more of these interruptions as a result of the challenges they are facing. And again, you talked about, how lack of effective utilization of the manpower that is available at the, at the center. Yeah. How do you think, or what do you think, how do you think leadership gap is contributing to this inefficiency that we're talking about?
Well, it contributes because if any leader doesn't show concern, that means there will be a bound to neglect the job. The staff may not even bother. In fact, because of the interest I have on the job, personally, when I was in Kano, I used my money to buy, there's one bike, they call it Scrambler, for emergency. You can use that bike for all terrain. When I was in Port Harcourt, I bought, with my personal money, I bought quad bike. That quad bike, any place where Land Rover and Hillers cannot access, that quad bike can access. I said, we can use that one to access our line without any delay. For us to be keeping people in darkness. No, use that equipment, because even in overseas, they use it. So
you find it extremely unacceptable to keep people in darkness.
Exactly. But when I give that recommendation, they neglected. They say, Oga, what Engineer Alim is doing, not everybody can do it. Boko Haram insurgent, they can kidnap us. I said, look, even if you are using Land Rover, you are using Hilux, if they want to kidnap you, they will kidnap you. Yeah. But that's what that quad bike, it is meant for that kind of terrain. Yeah. You can give it to even hunters. You can give some to the linesmen so that we can be surveilling our line. If you keep on disturbing the line with patrol, insurgents will not just come and vandalize their line. Yeah. Because nobody, you are right away, you have neglected it. You don't know how to access your line. So how can you say the system will not collapse when you are not maintaining the lines?
Right. Let's look at the recommendations, even though I'm yet to see the recommendations, but some of the observations of the interagency committee if you look at them on the surface, you realize that these are issues that require long-term solutions and long-term investments, for instance. Talking about deficit in terms of equipment, aging equipment, need for expansion and things like that. These are things that are long-term. But going by what the minister is saying, because it has been reported all over the place that the minister is asking the relevant operatives or units within the ministry to implement the recommendation of this interagency committee. How do you think, some of these long-term problems can be resolved within a can be implemented? Are there things that can be implemented immediately without coming up with the blueprint and then the right investment, the funding that is required, just beyond telling the people that, or telling Nigerians that, okay, we're going to implement? What are they going to implement? Nigerians would ask.
Well, it's unfortunate I didn't go through the report. I don't know. Yeah. But me, I don't believe in all this. In fact, we play theory more than the practical. What is disturbing us? Otherwise, all these things they are talking about, if we don't change our attitude for maintenance, you buy brand new motor here, if you don't maintain it, you don't expect that motor to last for you. So no matter how they bring the new equipment, if you don't discipline yourself on the maintenance culture, the new equipment you bring it will still fail, and we go back to square one.
Yeah. Is it even about supplying the equipment? Are the equipment available? Or if we are talking about procurement, it takes longer time, to arrive. So what is the essence of saying, okay, let's implement the recommendations? What is there a short-term solution to this problem?
Yes, the short-term solution is for the maintenance people to brace up.
Okay.
Because purchase is for engineering people, that is for new project. You normally buy equipment because it's not something that you go on the shelf and pick them. You give them time for them to manufacture it for you. But maintenance people, you don't have excuse. You don't have excuses for your equipment to be tripping. You are being paid
for that.
Then why? In fact, if your equipment trip, then you should check yourself. Or you check that management. Why is your line keep on tripping?
But we'll talk about the underlying factors, high voltage, aging, and are there things that, these are not man-made, some will say, they are systemic?
They are man-made. Yes, high voltage is there, yes. You have high voltage. Why do you have the reactors? It's to suppress the high voltage. Like in Kano, I was the one that even supervised the installation of the 330 kV capacitor bank. That one too is to enable to boost the voltage if the voltage is low. So all our stations we have reactors. That is the job of the reactor, to suppress the high voltage. That is so. If your reactors are not working, you cannot tell Nigerians there is high voltage. Yes, once your reactors are working, you cannot talk of high voltage.
So there are, windows, or rather there are things that can help you address the problem in short term.
Exactly.
Part of the equipment that are there.
Unless maybe other places that there is no reactor and you need to install the reactor to suppress the voltage, then you can now buy that thing. But all the old stations, most of them have, more especially the 330, they have reactors.
Right.
The work of the reactor is to suppress the high voltage.
Right. Okay, viewers, if you are watching today on the platform, we're looking at incessant or frequent, grid collapses in Nigeria, and of course, how best to address them. And I have in the studio a former general manager of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, that is Engineer Idiris Alim. Together, we'll be looking at the issue very closely. We'll take a break. And when we return, we'll also open the line for you to make your inputs on the platform. Today is Friday, and you know that it's interactive. So we're going to interact with you, Nigerians. You've heard what Engineer has said. You're also bearing the brunt of this grid collapses. So we'll hear from you when we return from the break. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. You can also join us across our social platforms. In case you missed this part of the show, or rather to be a part of the show from wherever you are, just join us on the platforms that were shown on your screen. And of course, while the line is open for you to make your comments, back in the studio I still have Engineer Idiris Alim. Now, looking at the situation, Nigeria has come of age, many will say. We talked about huge investments in the sector, a lot of expectations. Economy cannot even grow without power, which is very key. Yes. Okay, I understand we have a caller. I'll come back to that. Good evening.
Shafi'u Suleiman.
Yes.
Good evening, Idiris Alim.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
You are speaking to Alim Shamaki from Akon Electoral State.
Okay, Shamaki, I think you need to turn down the volume of that TV a little bit.
Okay. I've done that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the question some of us are asking, what causes the collapse of the grid almost every day? And we shouldn't forget there are millions of artisans that depend on daily basis to earn a living, like welder, barber, hairdresser, dry cleaner, and rest. Those people need a life in the daytime to catch up with their family. Yeah. But with this unnecessary outrage, how do you expect them to do? And it is a national disgrace to Nigeria. So with this, how can you encourage foreign investors to come and invest for the development of this country? Idiris, you are one time former general manager of TCN. What advice will you give, would you explain that you have to this very government so that this unnecessary shouldn't be occurring on time?
Right.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Amaki. His question is in line with the question I was about to ask.
Yes.
The centrality of power to everything development. You cannot have industrialization without electricity, without power.
Yeah.
You cannot enhance small-scale businesses without power. A number of them have collapsed due to lack of power. People are out of businesses, small-scale businesses are folding off because of lack of power. And we're talking about even the naira, the inflation we are facing in the country is somewhat tied to lack of productivity. You cannot be consumptive, that is, without being productive, and then you expect your exchange rate, to have any value. Yeah. So how do we address this in line with the question raised by the caller?
Like some of us that retired, we have that capability to assist. But when they don't ask for your help, there's no way, because I'm not part of the system now. I'm out of the system. But if they ask for my assistance, I can be able to assist them. Like more especially they notice what I did. When they collapsed the tower, when I was in Port Harcourt, 5 towers collapsed. So they were saying I should create a temporary bypass. I said, no, it's a waste of money. If you create temporary bypass, finally you must come and restore that original line. So why can't I restore the original line? That's what I did. 5 towers we were able to restore with the help of the contractor, because the area boys in the community there in Port Harcourt. So we claim as if it is TCN that is repairing it. So we have to assist the contractor to do it. Within 1 month, we were able to restore that one. Right. So, but if nobody asks for my assistance, I cannot just go say, okay, I'll come and assist.
You are doing the same thing here, because beyond just, as a Nigerian, you have, you felt obliged to contribute to nation building, which we are doing right now.
Exactly.
Yes, okay. I think we have another caller on the line. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes, who is on the line?
My name is Ibrahim Gulam, calling you from Damfara State.
Ibrahim, okay, go ahead, Ibrahim.
Yes, sir. I want to give some advice based on the conversation we are currently doing.
Hi.
Because if I had the GM well, he clearly stated that previously the TCN were using 4 helicopters for surveillance and monitoring the line in case if there's anything. My question now is that, sir, what happened with the helicopters? That's one. 2, I think the government needs urgently to do something, because this issue is seriously promoting the level of insecurity in the country. Okay. Like here in Zamfara, whenever we are experiencing this kind of darkness, these bandits used to come inside the Gusau town. They are using that darkness to kidnap of people. And our businessmen left behind without making anything that they are even struggling on what to eat at the persistence of this kind of Greek collapse. So there is need for government to do something serious. Yeah. And from what I observe now, the TCN lacks the requisite staff that are supposed to be experienced one to be working in the agency. I think the government will look at also the possibility of calling back this kind of people to contribute their own quota, at least for this country to have peaceful, this kind of issues.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. 2 issues raised. Yeah. You heard him. One has to do with the whereabouts of the helicopters. Yes. I know you are not in the system, perhaps, but then let me get your response on that. And then the issue around manpower development, getting the right people.
Okay. First, let me comment on the helicopters. If I am in the system, there is no way I will be buying transformers, 300 kVA MVA transformers. I will be constructing line. Then what will come to my mind is, what will I use to maintain those lines. I must buy helicopter. What happened to the 4 helicopters? In fact, if you want, scrap the whole 4, then buy 1 or 2.
If a case is aging or something.
Yes, if it's aging, scrap up the 4. If you can be able to get 1 or 2, gradually, as you are building up, you are buying helicopter for your line patrol. But if you don't do that, you must have that thing in mind. That is the focus. If you are building a station, you must have what to maintain those stations. If you are building a line, you must have a surveillance that you will go and patrol the line so that you clear all the incongruencies on the line. If you don't have it, you are just wasting your time. And if you cannot maintain your right of way too, farmers will come and occupy. If you want to go, if you are using Land Rover, you are using Hilux, how can you pass when the road
can have access to the line?
So that is no point. You must spend money to recover your right of way, so that it will be faster for your linesmen to go on line patrol and execute their job within the shortest possible time.
Right.
But if they cannot access the line, even the bandit we are talking about, if the line is motorable, you can at least you can see people going. Then with the helicopter, whoever that is going, if you are going on that patrol every week, you go 2 or 3 times. Whoever that had the intention of vandalizing the land, he know that he will think twice before they will go online.
Right.
That is what we are like.
Okay, I think we have another caller, even though this other issue around manpower.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Hello, good evening. Okay, I think we lost that.
Okay, about manpower.
Yes.
My own recommendation is we should go back to square one. We don't need much staff in corporate headquarters. We need only skeletal staff in corporate headquarters. Most of the staff supposed to be with the equipment. That is, if you have enough, though you don't just recruit anybody, I'm recruiting my brother, I'm recruiting my... No, those who you know that they can do the job. Not that you have 10 people. Out of the 10, you hardly see only 1 or 2 that knows the job. Others, they will just cover...
Redundancy and there. Right, okay. Hello, good evening. Hello. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
We barely can hear you. What's your name and where are you calling from? I don't think we will be able to communicate, okay? So we'll have to let you go, right? Okay, talking about the recommendations, what needs to be done?
Yes.
Okay,
my recommendation is most of the staff should be in the field. What you need in corporate headquarters is very skeleton.
Okay.
Only skeleton. Most especially the skeleton should be accounts, admin, but engineers should be
okay, just a moment. We have another caller. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, who is on the line?
It's Nathan from Zaria.
Nathan, go ahead, please. Nathan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. This issue. Hello?
Yeah, you cannot do 2 things at the same time. You switch off the TV so that we can talk.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, in this incident, collapse of national grid, it's actually looking like it's a sabotage to me. Because I think in the past, we don't usually have this kind of concurrent collapse of power. It is becoming frequent. So I think the government really needs to look into this. If there are people that are supposed to take care of these things and they are not doing their job, please, I feel we should leave that place so that we should look for competent hands that can do the job for us.
Right.
That's my submission.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're rounding up gradually. Yeah. For an administration that sees power as very critical to delivering its mandate or its policy, core policies, what would you suggest in terms of rejigging this sector? Does it need to declare a state of emergency? What needs to be done? Is it a total overhaul? What exactly is needed now?
We need total overhaul and then discipline. If anything, like all the GMs, look, give them. If you allow your line to trip, give them mandate. I'll forgive you for 1, 2. The third one, you'll be penalized. And if you do that, they will transfer the same thing to their junior staff, so that no more failure. If we fail, because nobody is penalized.
There should be a matching order.
There must be a matching order. So that that's why I'm telling you, when we're in Marina, matching, only one system collapse, everybody is shaking, because they know that if they find you culprit, they will sack you, or they will give you query. But what is happening is that like children playing with the switch on and off, on and off. That is what is happening now, because nobody discipline anybody for that causes of system collapse. Nobody. Nobody.
So head's supposed to have role now. People need to have
head's supposed to have role, and at the same time, insurgents too, because when they see chance, that's why they operate. If you don't give them chance, they cannot operate.
Yeah, okay. We have another caller, and then when we come back, there is this question I would want to ask along that line. Okay. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, who is on the line?
This is Mr. Steven from Port.
Sorry?
Mr. Steven from Port.
Okay, go ahead. Stevie, okay, Mr. Steven, go ahead.
I want to contribute this national grid every time in Nigeria now.
Okay.
This year now, how many times now? It's more than 10 times in this year. I want to ask, what of some other country Nigeria did like? Is the national grid falling under that country? I will only Nigeria.
Okay, that's a big question anyway. Okay, thank you. Engineer would answer that. I think recently one of those countries in Africa too was shutting down some of its power plants because there is excessive power supply and all of that. Yes. And here we are battling with less than 4,000.
It's not even enough for even one state in other countries.
All right. So yeah, how do we get out of here now?
You know, as I told you people, as I told you earlier, we need discipline, and once the head is disciplined, the down too will be disciplined, because they know if I didn't do my maintenance, because you must have schedule. You must have schedule. If you mess up that schedule, why didn't you be penalized? That is why those equipment should be up to date. But if you don't maintain them, of course they will trip. And anytime, in fact, a breaker, there are recommendations for number of operations a breaker is supposed to have in a year. So maybe in overseas, a breaker maybe will operate maybe once a year or two. But on our own, in a week, a breaker will trip more than 10, 15 times. So, and this thing will affect the lifespan of that breaker. So once somebody is not being penalized for this thing, then everything fall apart. The leadership is not there. The staff too, since say nobody will query him from up, he doesn't care. And it is the system it is the equipment that will suffer.
And yet we pay lip service. We want to address. We want to grow the economy to this certain level. How do we grow it without power?
No, at the same time, the management, like my staff want to go online patrol, or he need the spare to buy the equipment. Every month, operating Impress was sent to the state. What they do, because I make some saving. Out of that saving, I was able to even buy Hayab, 5 million that time when I was in Kano, for installation of equipment. But others station they are saying the operation Impress is not enough. I said, how come my own is even enough? Am I even making some saving? So a staff would go online or go for maintenance. You don't give him anything. What happened to the operating Impress? What happened, we know, is accountant, auditor, admin, they will just take over.
So there's need to address also concerns around corruption within the system.
Corruption is too high. Corruption is too high. If you don't deal with corruption, then the equipment is the one suffering. Because it doesn't have attention for people to attend to it and work perfectly well.
Lastly, as we round up, issues around renewable energy conversation. What's your take?
My take is we must emphasize on real power, because even the real power, we are not good in maintaining it. Then talk less of, say, renewable energy. Like more especially in the north, like Maiduguri, all this side, we have we have sunlight. But the dust,
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought we have, I wish we have more time to discuss this. Thank you very much, Engineer Idiris Alim, former General Manager, Transmission Company of Nigeria. We appreciate your perspectives.
Thank you very much.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of Daily Politics. Join us next time. We'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. Until then, I'm Shafi'u Suleiman. Many thanks for being there.